Hello and welcome to the Bravo Outsider Podcast. I'm your host, Craig Midwinter. With me, as always, is my co-host, Dylan Ferguson. Dylan, long time no see.
Yeah, it's been ages. Wow. What where did that beard come from? Oh my God. Have you been prospecting for the past 15 years? Jesus.
In case you're looking for some coverage of the Vanderpump Rules reunion, we released a special episode with a panel of past outsiders yesterday covering part 1 of the reunion. So have a look back in your podcast feed or on YouTube for that. It was a real banger.
It was great.
Yeah, it was a ton of fun. And check it out. Each week we bring on someone who doesn't follow Bravo to talk about the shows. And this week we're excited to have with us from Ray and Benny Talk Sports, it's Ray Strachan.
I put the win in Winnipeg.
Somebody's got to do it.
Is that bad?
No, that was great. That was fantastic. Awesome. Thank you for coming here. Super pumped to have you on. Really excited for our roundtable discussion. But before we get into it, do you want to just let us know kind of what your past experience is with reality TV?
Yeah, I don't really have any. Well, I guess I do have some past experiences back in the day in reality TV. I think Cops was probably my first foray into reality TV. It's kind of funny because like we're in the middle of this Writers Guild strike, and Cops was like a result out of the strike in like 1988, and it was something I loved. I loved the action. I loved like the way the camera was used. It was like the perspective of being in the chase. So I really fell in love with Cops. And I guess to this day, I still love shows like the border shows or whatever. When they catch people or try and catch people at the border. I love those. And I think the last reality TV show that I was really into was Last Chance U. It was about football players playing in junior college in their pursuit of either getting to a higher university to get to the pros or even just getting an education. I was just enthralled with that because of my roots of sports. So Last Chance U was the last reality TV show that I was really into.
Oh, it's interesting. You're the first person that has brought up Cops, and that really is like that is like proto reality. That is like before the huge wave of reality hit. The wake of the Survivor and Big Brother in the 90s.
Yeah, circa 2000. Yeah, most people immediately think of like the circa 2000 like reality TV or boom, but yeah, there's those shows that go back even earlier, like Cops, that were like that kind of set the mold for it.
So each week we try to do a roundtable discussion where we talk about some topic that is related and how it relates to reality TV. Today we wanted to talk about sports and how sports relates to reality TV. Dylan, this was one that you have been aching for. Do you want to lead us off with that?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm a big hockey guy. The NHL playoffs are on right now. I like the NBA playoffs too. So kind of I wanted to just shoehorn that in there. I want to talk about sports a bit, but I do think there is a lot of similarities. I mean, I think throughout our show we've been making sports metaphors like constantly. It feels like inevitable. I've definitely had at least like one hockey metaphor per episode. And I think Craig's cranked out a number in there too. Like it feels like a natural way to compare it when you're talking about like the strategy used by the people in these shows. And the fact that they're performers, like, the cameras are on, the lights are on, and then it's like, it's game time and it's time to clash with each other, and somebody's going to come up on top and somebody's not. So I definitely like looking at it through that angle. But the other thing that interests me is the way that like fandom interacts with the product. Which is obviously different than a fandom. Like if you're a fan of Star Wars or Harry Potter or whatever, when it's just fictional media, but in both sports and in reality TV, you're talking about like actual people with actual lives. The way that fandom kind of interacts with like influencing what they do and how they present themselves and the choices they make, I think that's something that's really interesting to me. because it's just become, especially like in the internet age, it's just like so inextricable, like just trying to separate the pure product, like just like what they do when it's showtime, with like what the fans want them to do, and like and the fan perspective of like who's a good guy and who's a bad guy. It just becomes like all muddled up now.
Yeah, totally. I like. Do you guys consider pro wrestling in sport?
Sure, yeah.
Because like I've never heard of this BravoCon until I watched Real Housewives, and it reminded me of like WrestleCon or WrestleMania Con, and the type of fandom you get with the professional wrestling fans, where they fall in love with these personas and they don't really know who they are. And there is a kind of gray area of good and bad in wrestling too now. It's not as, white and black, for lack of a better term, as it was back in the 80s. So I don't know if you guys saw that connection, but I loved pro wrestling when I was young, and I just immediately was reminded of that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like the way that fans interact with the content, it is very similar to how people interact with it in sports. Like there's so much armchair quarterbacking, like that term
Yeah.
that you see related to, like anytime you're on Twitter watching a game on sports, you've got tons of people that are, they're playing armchair quarterback or coach, or like calling out what they think needs to happen, how their team can get leverage. And that's something that you see constantly on Twitter and on Instagram, when people are reacting to what happens on screen in the Housewives shows.
Yeah, there's the term for that in Quebec where I live is gérant des stades, which is like bleacher manager. Like all these people try to manage from up in the bleachers. But in like the Bravo shows, that's like it sometimes you almost feel like they have to bend to the will of the fans, like they have no choice. Like they have things like you said, right, the BravoCon, which they talk about a lot in this episode of Atlanta that we're going to get around to, because it just happened and people are just coming back from it. It's like they like with, in that sense, it's almost more like the fictional fandoms where they feel like they have to kind of show some deference to the fans as the people who are most invested in it, but then at the same time you're also dealing with real people and you can't just tell them totally what to do with their lives. So it's like almost halfway between the two, like halfway between being like a fictional universe fandom and just being sports fandom. Well, once the cameras are rolling, they're going to do what they're going to do. They are at the end of the day real people. Yeah, but also like I find that the fandoms are often just the worst part of anything, and that's also kind of gets a little exhausting to me too. Whether you're talking about movies or sports or reality TV, I get so exhausted with the way that the fandom discourse will just try to push everything into like we'll try to make things go back to being like black and white, like there are good guys and there are bad guys, whereas like the actual content itself would rather just be like the human experience. It's all over the place, right? So I think that's why I often try to stay away from the fandoms if I can, which isn't always possible.
I think like you're right, like toxicity is like a huge part of fandoms. There's definitely a I don't know what drives this, but people want to kind of engage in a very like toxic way with whatever they are following. And we see that in the exact same way in both sports and in Bravo. Like the rumors that circulate throughout the fandoms within Bravo, like where right now the big one is people are speculating that Raquel is pregnant, and that's like the rumor that's kind of circulating. But if you follow sports, like here in Winnipeg, there's been rumors that the locker room is toxic in the Jets for the past years, and that like Wheeler and Scheifele are to blame for having this like toxic environment that drove Patrick Laine away. And it's the exact same like way that these fandoms are operating, and obviously it's going to have a negative impact on the people that are the subject of these rumors.
Yeah, absolutely. And you do see the same kind of pressure online in real life in sports that you do with these reality TV shows, I'd assume. Because there comes a certain point, especially if you look at a team like the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, who are community owned, where they do I guess answer more to the fans, where that pressure from the fans, fire Mike Kelly or whatever it was, or trade whoever, it becomes a problem within the fandom or the fan nation. And I do feel that like a lot of teams or people in managerial positions do feel that pressure and sometimes do react either pro or con to what the fandom is saying or up in arms about.
Yeah, and I think in both cases it's like a double-edged sword, because there are, obviously people that are using the fandom to their benefit and wielding it like a sword. The sports teams obviously benefit hugely from having a strong fan presence in terms of the momentum that it generates within a building when they're playing. When there's a large away contingent in an arena supporting a team, it makes a noticeable impact on the dynamics of a game in a lot of cases, especially like in hockey, you see it a lot. Um, and reality stars, they wield this fandom in the exact same way. Like they know how to like dog whistle and hype up their followers in order to get them into a frenzy to attack another housewife online,
Yeah.
in order to kind of adjust the narrative. And we often see like social media play out within housewives more and more frequently lately. The sort of the meta housewife game shows up, where there is like fan interaction that that does dictate the events that happen on screen. Like yeah, it's just it's interesting, because you live by the sword and you die by the sword.
Yeah, no, totally. Got nothing to add to that. That's basically what I had to say.
And there are athletes who, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Ray.
There are athletes who do the same thing. Like ever since Antonio Brown has fallen from grace, like it's his approach and use with social media that's totally tanked the guy in his career. And now he's a pariah and still using social media and trying to get back in. It's just a weird thing of how some people, like athletes or celebrities, use that and try to take advantage of fandom.
Yeah, actually, that's a really interesting example, because I think there are a lot of housewives that fall into that exact same pattern, where they were worse, where they started off as a personality on screen, like Antonio Brown was a player on the field, and and then transitioned to being like an agent of the fandom, where they they're no longer playing on the field, but they are still very active, and maybe more so active in the fan base and in the comment section, doing their own podcasts, and really kind of trying to drive, using their platform to drive the fandom in specific ways. I mean, you see former housewives with very popular podcasts go on, and they've got a huge platform to articulate their views and steer the narrative. And I think one big example of that is Tamara and Teddy from Beverly Hills and Orange County, former housewives that started a hugely popular podcast. It is like really good. It's probably one of the better Bravo podcasts that are out there. Maybe second only to us.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But they have continued to build an audience. They have had a major impact on how fans are engaging. Like they're weighing in on drama. We saw them weigh in on the drama with Teresa earlier this season. Now Tamara is returning to Orange County after having built this audience. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out when she, returns to the field, as they say. Did either of you guys have any more anything to add on the discussion on fandom?
Not really. I guess want to say, just to kind of sum up my thoughts, is that I do think it's actually like awesome that fandoms provide this like sense of community for so many people. I'm fans of a lot of things. I'm fans of the Montreal Canadiens. I got my shirt on. I love Vanderpump Rules and stuff, and I think it's awesome to have groups of people that have a collective interest. It just makes me uneasy the way that they become like schools of fish sometimes at a certain point, and it's like everybody just starts turning in the same direction, and then you have the risk of it being like toxic behavior where somebody's being targeted and people are forgetting that it's somebody's real life that you're dealing with when they're getting a bunch of harassment. And that's kind of just the summary of how I feel about it. It's good that it exists. Too bad that it always seems to end up being toxic.
It is tons of fun, and it is amazing to feel, like you said, that sense of community that you get from participating in a fandom. I'm always constantly resisting the urge to talk about Big Brother on this podcast, but I'm going to, just because I think that there's
resist that urge.
Yeah. I'm always looking for an opportunity to talk about Big Brother. It's maybe
there we
go. But Big Brother has a very like strong, dedicated fan base, and I think that is a result of just having this really like great community experience, similar to sports, where there is like an event, like a live event that is happening because fans are sitting there watching on the feed, watching it live and reacting to something in real time. And yeah, I think that really helps drive and build a fan base to have this communal experience. And that's why it's so fun when you're watching like Real Housewives and, you know, participating in one of the live discussion threads on Reddit or engaging on Twitter while something's happening in real time, just feeling the waves and the momentum shift within a fandom while something is playing out on screen. It is like there's something that is just really amazing about that you're not able to get in a lot of other forms of media that don't happen, that aren't like scheduled and aren't live.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's the same thing as like you're watching the match and then it goes to commercial break and you open your Twitter feed if you're a Twitter person and you know see what all the people that you follow who also like your team are saying about like that sketchy call that just happened or whatever. Like it's cool to feel like immersed in that constant conversation, even if you're just sitting at home or having a beer and watching the game. You're still surrounded by all these fans at the same time. So don't mean to denigrate that experience because that's awesome. That's one of the fun things about it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, let's jump into our episodes for this week. So there's only one Housewife show that is airing right now until OC premieres in 2 weeks. So we've picked up Real Housewives of Atlanta and Below Deck Sailing Yacht that we're going to talk about. Let's start with Real Housewives of Atlanta. Ray, what were your first opinions on Real Housewives of Atlanta? Any characters stand out? Did it kind of meet your expectations of what you thought a Real Housewives show was going to be like?
It totally met my expectations. I was really, really drawn to Candy. So think about it. It's like that's someone I can see Viola Davis. For me, as also being an actor and being involved in TV and film, I make these connections with actors that I see playing these people. And I just see Viola Davis with that intensity and putting it all on the table. And I really fell in love with Candy. So yeah, I don't know. I don't want to. You want me to tell you all about what I thought about the show, or just a little touch? Because you know, I might actually watch another episode. Because like I say, I'm not totally into reality TV, but just the little bits I have, and I don't know. I just want to know more now because I got a little taste, and there's so many connections that I'm missing, and so many backstories that I don't know. So now I'm a little intrigued. So thanks, guys. That's great.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear, and I agree. Candy is like such a magnetic personality on the show. There's a reason she's been on the show for so long. I love that we see not only her kind of expose her like personal life and the challenges. She's like very transparent in that regard, which is like a must in a good housewife. But she's always got both a strong like social storyline with like how she interacts with the other housewives, and she has like a professional storyline that is like very compelling because she's so driven to build her restaurant empire, and we see that she is like, you know, she wants that EGOT, and you know, I feel like I feel like she'll get it. Like she could get it.
I mean, it's extremely ambitious. What are there, like 14 people who have that or something? Like, that's
yeah. I mean, she's got the G.
She's got the G lockdown. That's what's 1 for 4. Though, you know what?
She's nominated for the T.
Yeah, that's right. The Tony Awards are being held in June, I think. So
she's a producer. That's right.
She's nominated for that play she's producing. So she could end up with a G and a T.
And then, why not adapt it to an Oscar-winning film after that?
That seems like a stretch. I feel like the O is going to be the one that's going to be really hard to chase, but an E might be more realistic there.
I want to see a housewife get an Emmy. I think that Housewives deserves an Emmy. I feel like, Housewives and Bravo reality shows have produced a level of quality in the content that is deserving of an Emmy. And I don't think they need to establish even a new award category for reality TV, although maybe they should. But I want to see this past season of Vanderpump Rules go up against Succession and win, because it was amazing. But I feel like, I feel like it's a matter of time. I feel like it's a matter of time and the effort. We need like someone strongly campaigning for an Emmy nomination for Housewives or Bravo in general.
If it happened, I think they would need to make new categories, because people just wouldn't accept blurring the lines between reality and scripted performance. I think for the same award, I just don't see that, like the unions would be okay with that.
Yeah,
I agree. Can I ask a question then? Because I'm a first timer to this with Candy, and there was this thing about her hiding her, this violent thing that happened, and her ability to be able to hold this. Is that a pattern of her behavior all the way through? Because you mentioned that she's been in seasons past. She's like one of the longest reigning ones. Is she one of those OGs that gets to hold her secrets down no one knows about, and she's holding a lot down? Or I was very intrigued by that.
Yeah, so she doesn't seem to have a huge history of like keeping things, behind a curtain like you see a lot of other housewives. She's typically pretty open. I think in general, when a housewife has like a successful business, they are, they're going to try to protect it as much as possible. So this wasn't really surprising, and I didn't feel like, oh, there's Candy hiding something again. That wasn't like how I instinctively reacted, and I didn't even see any response like that online. So I feel like it's pretty atypical of her to be hiding something like that. And I think that, she does have a variety of good reasons to be trying to hide something like that.
Sure. I mean, she's trying to protect her business for sure. That's understandable. Though I do think it was kind of a bad look for her when we got kind of the flashback at the end where Marlo was talking about her nephew.
Yeah.
And Candy just didn't seem to react with the appropriate level of, sympathy and dignity for what happened. It's understandable she doesn't want to talk about shootings that happened at her restaurant on the show, because it's that's a business that she's running, and you've got to look out for your business interests. But in that conversation with Marlo, I think that was a bad look for her. I love Candy too. I think she's great, but I think in that moment that definitely showed her in a kind of a bad light, where you kind of felt like maybe she was thinking about her business more than she was thinking about the human side of things in that moment.
Yeah, and I think it's not just her business that she's trying to protect. Like, I think also, like, all these housewives, they receive a lot from being a housewife, like in terms of the platform that they're getting, and the profile that the show has. I think there's also, she's also trying to, protect the reputation of the show. And we see her image being attacked in other ways by what's the new girl's name?
Courtney.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, we see Courtney like
Sorry, that was my reaction to it. She shows up.
We see Courtney like calling her ghetto, and so I feel like that's not something that that's not the image that she wants for herself or the show. So there's some of that protectionism as well.
Yeah, for sure. Also, you know what? I'm pretty sure that Candy won a season of The Masked Singer. So I don't know if you could swap in like an M for one of those, like E's or O's. Maybe that'd make it a little more attainable.
You just have to tack it on.
Yeah,
it's a MEGOT. Did you have any particular highlights, Ray, from this?
Well, Drew's performance or lack thereof.
Oh yeah,
all 3 syllables of it.
Yeah, and the nastiness of that. I don't know. It's yeah, that's what really came out to me. And what's Mama Joyce?
Oh yeah.
I've never seen the show before, so I've been introduced to all these characters, but Mama Joyce, something about her realness, and I want to get to know Mama Joyce more. I don't know if she actually appears in the show or she's just on tour for these Bravo cons, but I love Mama Joyce. That's
Candace's mom, and she is a lot more present in like earlier seasons of Atlanta. I want to get back to what you were mentioning about Drew's performance. I thought that this was like a definite highlight for me. I really loved that we got this like contrast from, Drew kind of tepidly engaging in trying to have a music career juxtaposed against like Candace, who is like definitely taking it a bit more seriously. And I mean, it's not exactly like she's making waves, but she is out there like grinding it out. Like she's out touring her thing, and she's really like pushing it. She's actually like taking it seriously, whereas Drew feels like she's like throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks. Because last season we saw her try to like start up a fitness thing, like Drop It with Drew or something like that, and it was very like just like half-assed attempt, and we're seeing that with her like her music, just like not taking it seriously, getting on stage and woo-wooing a few times. Really hilarious.
Well, it's because Ralph needs to push the song, right? That's what. I like the moment where she's talking to Ralph, and they seem to be getting along really well so far this season, from what we can see. But there's that moment where she says, when they're discussing about it, like doing okay and stuff, and Drew says to him, like, "Well, you need to push the song, you need to get it out there," and you just kind of see Ralph's jaw muscles move a little bit, like, "I'm not going to get into it with you right now, but I don't, I'm not sure I appreciate you pushing me like that."
Yeah. Ralph just comes across as like such an asshole. Like he just I really loved in that same conversation when they started talking about BravoCon, where he was like, someone came up to me at BravoCon and asked them to gaslight them. Gaslight
you
me,
get gaslight me. Yeah, you have the clip of somebody saying, "Gaslight me, bro." So yeah, I don't know why anybody would think these fan bases are toxic.
Yeah.
Like, did the people just apply to be these housewives?
Yeah, so there's a variety.
How do you stay on for so long? Just so I get the break, like, I'm clueless into that.
Yeah, so you get on through like your cast through a number of ways. So they will often try to get someone that has some sort of connection to another housewife. So that's usually an in, even if you don't like really know someone, if they kind of like know your name. I think the most that we saw on screen that kind of hinted at the actual process of this was I think it might have been discussed on an Ultimate Girls Trip or something like that. But when Bethany left Real Housewives of New York, she gave a list of potential replacements for her, and Leah was on. So you typically will either get completely picked up by the production company's like casting, or you'll kind of be referred and then do your audition and whatever. That's how you get on. And then often you won't know whether you're an actual full-blown housewife or the tier below that, which is like called a friend of. And in that case, you don't get like a full storyline, which is what like Courtney is right now.
That's what I was wondering about. Like, if like she is just a fly, like she so happened to be on the show, like strategically she's on there. That's what I was wondering about.
She's on the entry level contract. She's on the two-way.
Thank you.
Basically.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So if your performance like kind of like lives up, then you might start out of the gate like as a new housewife, or you might get promoted the next season. And there could be a variety of other things that aren't necessarily performance related that cause you to be a friend of in your first season. Like we saw that with Sutton on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. She was a friend of on her first year, but she was still very active in the drama. Like she had a performance that was worthy of being a diamond holder, is what they're called in Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. But she was in the midst of a divorce, and her husband didn't want her kids on air, so they couldn't actually show her like personal story during that. So that there's things like that couldn't prevent you from being a full-time housewife. Yeah. And then from there, once you've got your diamond in Beverly Hills or your peach in Atlanta, then it all comes down to performance and whether you're able to like keep up and engage socially, bring something to the table, like stir up shit, have a compelling story, and how fans respond to you does like play into that to a degree. But it's not the only thing, because the producers are smart. They know that you need villains. You need like people that are hated by fans that are able to get shit done and agitate things. So you do see people that are able to, just play a pure villain role. They don't give a shit what fans say and are just very effective housewives as a result.
Need a Ryan Reeves, eh? You need a Ryan Reeves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you definitely do. And that's, I think it helps explain why you see somebody like Courtney, who, like I said, is like a first year call up trying to start shit all the time. Cause she's like the call up who's trying to fight everybody because she wants the coach to be like, yeah, we need this one. Yeah. We need that person to get in the scrums, to get dirty, Yeah. And she's trying to prove that she has what it takes to be part of the show by like getting involved with everybody, becoming the center of attention.
Yeah, and she's going after that OG Candy. She's going after like the top dog.
Yeah,
getting under his skin, eh?
Yeah, exactly. That's like a classic notice me first year move. I'm gonna fight a superstar. I'm gonna see if I can get Alex Ovechkin to drop the gloves on me.
Totally.
Then I'll get on every highlight reel, and then we'll see if Coach likes me.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Sidney Crosby is my cousin.
That's right.
Did you have any other highlights, Ray?
I kind of like the weird date montage with Drew and Ralph. I find that like y'all were just talking about Ralph and kind of like but I find that relationship kind of weird. I don't know how solid that rock is, and I know
they're divorced now. So
see, I didn't get that information in the show. I thought they're like trying to move forward ish, but so maybe that's why I felt kind of weird.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a note about that too, how they're really trying to sell this like happy marriage story, like, and they were kind of under the microscope last season just because Ralph was gaslighting Drew all season about what he was doing when he was taking trips for like a week and not telling her, just disappearing. So it's not surprising to see them have some sort of response to that, but they are really trying hard to sell this happy marriage. And this date was so weird, like right down to Drew like rock climbing in a blazer or whatever it was that she was wearing. It was not rock climbing attire in my mind.
Yeah, I like the girls behind the counter at the rock climbing place being like, yeah, you're right, your shoes are cute, but you might want to go with the rentals.
Absolutely.
Dylan, what were your highlights from this episode?
I did think it got really interested near the end. First, when we have most of the girls together, like kind of talking about various things, you feel like we're finally starting to see what might be some of the storylines moving forward for the rest of the season. We're still in season 3. We're still kind of trying to figure out what the big storylines are going to be that are going to continue on. But then even after that, when it got kind of real when you had Marlowe's, really. Her trauma, her struggling to deal with losing a nephew to violence, and just kind of being uncomfortable with the way it intersects with the show, and like with Candy's business and stuff, and just kind of struggling to see like how this fits in, and I really thought it was really interesting, those kind of conversations about like what's the appropriate way to talk about this in a way that's like respectful, and 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 I thought it was really moving to see how Marlo was really struggling with that, and I was trying to understand like what kind of set her off, and it seemed like she didn't really like the way that the way that like Drew was bringing it up in an insinuating way, without like, just, I think she didn't like that she didn't say the word shooting, that she brought it up,
right,
but wouldn't say the word, that she wasn't being clear, that she was being like too like insinuating. She was just kind of like twisting around it, rather than like either avoiding it outright or talking about it directly. And I feel like that's kind of what set Marlo off. And I thought that was really interesting to me, as like seeing how she's trying to deal with something that's very real in this like social group that's often talking about things which are like pseudo real.
Yeah. I think that definitely played into it. I got a more like tactical read on it. I felt like she was lashing out at Drew because, she didn't have enough to lash out at Candy for. That's where her real kind of like beef and friction is. But she was obviously like really worked up and really like truly hurting about it. And I think she needed an outlet for that. And there was enough there to go after Drew for, and it probably felt safe enough to do that because she knew that Drew is not in a position to come after her over it. I think like Drew does not have the kind of social capital to use this to fuel like a season long beef and conflict. So I thought that there was like some I thought that anger was, it was for Candy. She just directed it at Drew.
Yeah, I could see that, because it's hard to like straight up say what Candy did wrong in a clear way that would like hit, that Candy wouldn't just be able to kind of like deflect and be like, I'm not really sure what you're upset
about. Or it would
about.
just create like ammunition for Candy.
Exactly, because Candy's in like at a very strong, like entrenched position. So yeah, I think maybe a lot of Marlo's frustration is directed at Candy, but just kind of needs a different way to express it right now.
Yeah, and I felt like some contrast between how Marlo, who is very experienced on this show, this is only her like second season as a peach holder, but for many seasons prior, she was a friend of the cast. So she's way more experienced than her record might suggest. I thought we saw her like her keen understanding of like the housewife game on display by by venting on Drew here as opposed to Candy, whereas it kind of contrasts how Courtney, who is a complete rookie coming in, is approaching her like effort to stake her claim on this show by coming out and attacking Candy right away, and just kind of reading into the fact that Courtney doesn't have a peach this season. I feel like Candy is very quickly going to like be able to brush this off and move past. I feel like this is an attack that is not going to land. And I think we saw in the confrontation between Candy and Courtney at the end, just Candy was just so skillful at handling Courtney, and had the backup, had the like upper hand. We can see that she's just able to like brush this off, and her experience is showing she can move past this. And Courtney is, if this is all that Courtney is able to use to like grab a hold of, like this is the only rock hold that she has, she's gonna fall off the wall. It's worse than having bad shoes like Drew.
Yeah, no, Courtney's gonna get chewed up, I think, and I hope so, because she's annoying. Honestly, she's just she's just annoying.
Looking forward to seeing it.
It's horrible. Even her voice alone. God dang, that's annoying.
Yeah. I said that when she first showed up in the first episode, that like when she just like the first thing we hear out of her mouth when she shows up is just that hey that goes on for like it seems like 3 hours.
And I think maybe that's why Candy appeals to me too. Just her look on her face, and whenever this person is in the room, it's like, oh my. Or the phone call when she had her on FaceTime or whatever it is, and she saw Courtney. It's just
right. When we also got the rare audio only flashback, because the first time Courtney confronted Candy in episode 1, and Candy was losing her patience and said, "I'm going to headbutt this bitch."
Yeah.
And then we got the moment where Drew is calling up Courtney on the phone, and the editors give us just a shot of Courtney's face with just the like reverberated audio of Candy saying, "I'm going to headbutt this bitch." That was so funny.
Oh my god! Now I have to go back. Can I ask, is Cherie not showing up at that performance? Is that a big deal, or is that just par for the course? Just because I don't know these characters well.
Yeah, it's not like that would be a tactical decision on her part. I think there's a few things that would have entered into her decision to do that. I think Drew is not coming from a position of strength this season. So I think she knows that, Drew is not really going to do anything about it. Or maybe she's even playing like 3D chess and is like, this will maybe give Drew something to like engage with me on, or like she doesn't necessarily have a huge beef either. So maybe that she's thinking this could be a point of conflict that we can have. And yeah, so I think that there was some foresight in her decision not to go to this. It doesn't seem like it'll be a big deal, but it could be, a brick in the wall sort of thing.
I gotcha.
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed we didn't get more of Martel, Cherie's beau, who's apparently got quite a reputation on another TV show. He's on Love and Marriage Huntsville, I think, on a different network. It's not like the Oprah Winfrey Network. It's
gosh.
But apparently he's built up like a real reputation for himself as like a duplicitous guy. And so now that Cherie's with him, it's really going to be interesting to see where that goes. So unfortunately, we didn't get him yet in this episode. We'll see. We got him in the first episode,
and a little bit in the second, at the very beginning.
Right.
He has been the source of conflict, and he's embroiled in a little like off-screen scandal right now. He was caught for like plotting to release like revenge porn of his ex-wife or something like that.
Okay.
So yeah, definitely has like not the best reputation. We'll see how it plays out through the season, because he's obviously not very well liked amongst the cast here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I feel like we're going to get reason to not like him in the Bravo universe either by the time the show ends, but we'll see.
Any other final thoughts on Real Housewives of Atlanta before we move on?
Just like Candace shows up in all of these, doesn't she? I mean, we watched Potomac with Candace a bit, right?
Yeah.
We watched Ultimate Girls Trip, where Candace was a cast member in that too. She made a cameo in Real Housewives of New Jersey a couple weeks ago that we were watching.
Yeah.
Now here she's performing in this. Like I expect her to just be like trotted out to the Vanderpump Rules reunion next time we watch it.
I hope so. That would be amazing. Her star is rising. Like, she has been on Real Housewives of Potomac for I want to say 4 or 5 seasons now, and she was someone that was not well liked by the fan base. She was like, she's always been one of my favorites. She's very active. She's often not coming from a place where she is in like has the moral right necessarily, but she is very like emotional and very like a very active housewife. And so I've always loved her. And then this season we got her, she got a real hero edit because of how she was responding to the situation with Giselle and Chris. And and she's given us so many great quotable confessionals. So it's awesome to see her star rising, and she's building a following. And also, she's very active now watching Vanderpump Rules. Scandival put Vanderpump Rules.
She will show up in the show.
I hope so. But Scandival put Vanderpump Rules on her radar, and she's like diving in deep into the fan engagement on Twitter, watching the show and reacting. And love to see. Anytime Candace shows up, I'm happy that she's on screen.
Nice. I think before we move on from Atlanta, we should each pick at least one person who reminds us of a hockey player.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's have you lead us off.
I would definitely compare Candy to like Ovechkin in the sense that she's been around for a while and used to be like maybe like more active and dynamic in scoring wins when she was younger, and now is still scoring wins but does it in like a more like seemingly passive way, like just somehow finds the open areas of the ice, just kind of gets in the right place in the right time and uses strategy more than like hard charging power forward plays, but is still like a superstar at the top of their game even at a later stage in their career.
How about you, Ray?
I'm gonna compare Drew to Mark Scheifele.
Interesting.
You know, there's some talent there and shows flashes of what possibly can be there. Maybe a bit lazy. Won't back check. Won't do the defensive work. Won't do what's necessary to get to the next level. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Drew being Mark Scheifele.
I like that.
Yeah, and we've never heard either of them swear, to my knowledge. So.
Hey.
That's awesome. I think that I would compare Kenya to Brad Marchand. A little bit of an agitator. You love them if they're on your team. You hate to play against them. Able to make an impact in almost any situation. So yeah, that's my pick.
Yeah, I like that. Right I on. Do. Now that you mentioned it, I do like that little moment of Kenya like being a boss and just chewing out some graphic designer, and then the way that they intercut that with her being like, "Yeah, I'm a very patient boss," and then she's being like, "Yeah, why don't you fucking fix it the first time?"
And that young lady is just looking down, just oh my god.
Yeah. She even glances at the camera at one point, like, yeah, it's like this a lot.
Totally.
And I got the feeling that like none of the girls were going to bring up the fact that Drew just went on stage and did her little woo woo if it weren't for Kenya like making that happen, making that discussion happen. Right. She's like, oh well, why did you just do like a little woo woo on stage and that was it?
Well, good for Kenya because we were all thinking it. So
yeah. I also really love the Sonya's confessional where she mentions that Drew's moment on stage was like shorter than her 400 meter
world record time.
And it was.
Yeah.
The clock.
Yeah. They timed it and
everything. Awesome. Okay, well let's talk about Below Deck Sailing Yacht. So this is a show that we have not yet covered on this podcast. It's a show that I follow. I don't think it's as like narratively rich as like Real Housewives or Vanderpump Rules, but it's still like a ton of fun. I feel like Below Deck, if Below Deck is kind of like this exploration of like workplace dynamics and to an extent even like class dynamics that it makes it kind of interesting. So I'm curious what your thoughts on this were, Ray.
Oh, when I was watching this, like especially the first 15 before the actual technical problems with the boat happened, I was like, yo, this is the Winnipeg Jets locker room. this must be the toxicity that's happening behind the senior people trying to get into the younger people's mind. A cool leader like Captain Glenn, who I do like, kind of chill and letting let's whatever be with the staff. And that's what I thought of automatically, that Winnipeg Jets locker room in the current state that it's in.
Yeah. Did you have any highlights or any characters that stood out to you?
Gary and Daisy, that relationship, is it Daisy?
Yeah.
That dynamic is just something that I'm interested in. There's some kind of friction there, and there's, I don't know, just a crush on her part to him, and it's also creepy that she's kind of getting in the way of him getting hooked up with anyone else.
Well, that's his interpretation. I'm not sure how much I buy his interpretation.
And maybe because of the camera cuts and everything, I bought into it.
yeah,
as a new guy, so I was like, ugh. But I don't know. Yeah, it didn't really get interesting until the boat problems. Because I was like, oh, these people are so mean to each other. It's so toxic, which is also entertaining. But yeah, that's what really stuck out to me.
Yeah, I think so. Just like some context on that relationship between Daisy and Gary, they are a former couple. So they dated somewhat briefly between the previous season of Below Deck Sailing Yacht and this season of Below Deck Sailing Yacht, and then broke up. So yeah, that is a little bit of a source of friction. I also don't really buy into Gary's read of the situation. But yeah, it is an interesting dynamic to watch out for in the future, especially since we got like a tease of Daisy kissing Colin apparently in an upcoming season, or an upcoming episode this season. So I'm curious about how that all plays out. Dylan, what were your thoughts on Below Deck Sailing Yacht?
This is my first time watching a Below Deck show. Actually, I haven't watched any of them yet. I've been meaning to get my sea legs for a while now, but this is my first time. I'm glad I did. It's definitely a bit of a different beast because, like you said, it is like a workplace dynamic too. I work in the hospitality industry too, so it's like kind of like recognizable dynamics to me, just a lot more crunched and concentrated because they're all in the same boat. And obviously it's a great format. It's got a lot of great things working for it. The workplace dynamic is just like a great vehicle for drama. The fact that it's like we close, as they say in mysteries, like a closed area is great. The fact that you have like different charters coming in gives you that kind of like old school network TV, like episode of the week kind of thing. And I really like how they'll be like, and these are like today's clients, and bust out the little file folder with like headshots and stuff, like it's like the targets in a Mission Impossible movie. And I thought that was really cool. And then you have like sort of suggested this, Craig, there's a bit of the old like upstairs downstairs thing, like an old English novel where you've got like the rich assholes partying on the boat, and then the people who are definitely not, like, most of these people don't really seem to be like lower class families, but are not from the same wealth strata as the people that they're catering to, who are like in the working side of the ship. So I like having that too. It's like there's just like so many reasons why this is just a great idea for a show.
Yeah. Not to mention, like, every episode has very like beautiful shots of whatever the locale is. And, the fact that they are at sea and exposed to lots of problems, I feel like you have you've got this source of environmental conflict that doesn't exist on any other on any other show. You've got this dynamic where there is conflict between the members of the crew, which is something that you see on like Housewives and Vanderpump Rules, your cast conflict. But then you've got this kind of united front that has a dynamic that has to play against the charters that you're seeing. So lots of different potential sources of conflict and story. And yeah, that rotation each week where you've got a new cast of characters and a new dynamic at play really makes this a really engaging show.
Yeah. Like you said, the location's great because you've got great scenery, and then and man, when they make that like those Sardinian food that looks so good.
Oh.
After I watched the show, I woke up the next day and I had all these browser tabs open to like Sardinian recipes. That really did it for me. But yeah, the cast is pretty good. I definitely want to keep watching them. I feel like sympathetic to Daisy just because I kind of like her as the person. I recognize her as the person who gets everything done, and then who people resent because she's the person who gets everything done, which means like being a hard ass sometimes. Mm-hmm. And Captain Glenn just gets to be like the chill captain while she's the one like getting shit in place, making sure people are doing their jobs. And that person's always going to be resented, but is like the most like necessary cog. And so I know that she's like clearly really stressed about that, and that but that's it kind of endears her to me in a way. I also really like as a character Chase.
Oh, I love Chase.
Yeah, who I thought he was so annoying at first, but then I started to find him charming as this like really uncool American, and I thought it was almost sweet, like the way they're like having a meal on shore, and he keeps making these lame jokes, being like, "Oh, you guys are so suave, like 007, like oh, what's this in my dish? Is it like fried chicken and watermelon?" And they're like, "That's sea urchin, Chase. Chase, stop talking." It was just like really funny, and then like when he crosses paths with Lucy, and he's like, "Oh, high five," and she's like, "Oh, we don't high five in the UK." And then and then he's like all crushed about it, and then Lucy like feels bad and comes to see him later, and it's like, I feel bad about it, we can high five now. And he's like, "Yeah, you're lucky to have America as a friend." So funny for me. Oh man.
And of course the yoga session.
Oh yeah.
Just he does bring a vibe, a good quality vibe to the trip, where he kind of softens everyone up, and it's great.
Yeah, brings a vibe, brings a twister board.
Yeah. He was adamant to get that game going.
Oh yeah.
Just like so pleased when it was like playing out.
Yeah. I'm surprised we don't get to see more of him actually like vibing with their charter, because they're a bunch of uncool Americans too, right? Like that seems like they would love Chase. He seems like he's their child.
Absolutely. He seems like that son to that dude that made inappropriate jokes at the wrong time every time.
Right. Big Jim, who has like a big flag of himself unfurled on the flag mast. Oh
goodness.
Yeah. They love that guy at the pickleball courts, that's for sure.
Yeah, one thing that I really like about Below Deck is how, because it's on a boat, there is this very strong like hierarchy of positions. Like there is like a chain of command that needs to be followed, but then we get them, going off boat, and we still see that dynamic exist within their social interactions when they're going out and like getting drunk, and it does inform the decisions that they make, even though they don't have to adhere to that. And so it's very interesting to me to see like kind of when and where they choose to not just consider the fact that they have to work together, but also that where the chain of command comes into play.
Yeah. There's a lot of moving parts, almost too many moving parts, compared to like some of the Housewives shows that I love. That like my favorite scenes are just like people in a room talking and seeing where the conversation goes. But there's like so many dynamics at play in Below Deck.
Yeah.
It's almost cluttered with dynamics, but that's also like provides like a ton of tension and like different angles of approach. Like, our relationship, our past relationships, our dynamic as coworkers, our hierarchical dynamics, like all that happening at the same time.
Yeah. Another thing that I really appreciate about the Below Deck franchise is that we typically get a roster refresh at the beginning of every season. There's very few characters that carry forward from season to season. Typically, they try to preserve the chief stew if they've got an engaging person like Daisy, or the best chief stews were like Kate Chastain on Below Deck and Hannah from Below Deck Med. So if they've got someone that is able to be really engaging in a confessional and just like be kind of messy, but also like work really hard and be, like you said, Dylan, that cog that kind of keeps the workplace functioning, they really like to have that person. From time to time, we'll see a reoccurring bosun, or like in Gary's case, I think he's like the first officer now, but someone that is like leading the actual deck crew return. But aside from that, we usually have new second and third stews coming on, and a new like deck crew that comes up. So um, seeing a new crew start the season is something that is always interesting, because you get to see them kind of like feel out how things work and how that dynamic is going to shake out. And it never is the same season twice. You're not seeing a lot of history get rehashed in ways that you see on other shows.
Does that include the chef, Elisha?
Yeah, so she's new this season. Sometimes you will see a chef, like a reoccurring chef, if they've got someone that is like particularly engaging. So we saw Chef Ben, I think, has probably the most below deck seasons under his belt. He hasn't been on below deck sailing yacht, but he was on the original below deck, and um, he was the person that carried over when below deck spun off and created below deck med. He was the only person from below deck that carried over there. um and actually, when they started below deck sailing yacht, they brought over a chef who was previously on below deck med, Chef Adam. So chefs can be reoccurring characters as well, because they can be very compelling. And like, I don't know about you, but like chefs just kind of have like this like chef vibe. There's like this chef like
Totally.
personality. So when you've got a chef that really like is engaging like that, like Chef Rachel is another one that we've seen reoccurring. um they're just like really fun to watch. And they're very reactive, because chefs seem to always be very reactive.
Yeah.
And to have an environmental like element that plays into things, especially on below deck sailing yacht. But when you've got a kitchen that is like offshore, that has certain constraints that they have to work with. And on below deck sailing yacht, especially, you see if they are sailing and they're like tacking hard, and like the boat is tipped over, you've got shit flying around all over the galley, like falling off shelves and stuff. That is so fun to watch.
Yeah, it's also fun to see a chef just working alone too, because usually they've got like their sous chefs and whatever are hanging around them. They got to be a little dictator or barking orders and stuff. But here we've got a chef just like stewing in their own juices, just doing their own thing, maybe getting a hand from time to time from a crew member who's not like a dedicated kitchen staff member. So I feel like that's like a chef concentrated. The chef boiled down into a court bouillon or something.
Yeah. And you do get a little bit of that element that makes, cooking competition reality shows so interesting, because like it's fun to watch someone like really succeed at like just nailing a dish that makes everyone like satisfied, that looks delicious. But it's also really fun to see someone like really fuck up and like not meet expectations and just really like fail. So the fact that you get like both sides of that is what drives the success of like cooking reality shows. And to have that element in a Bravo narrative reality show is really entertaining.
Yeah. I definitely found myself more interested in the work dynamic more than the personal dynamic at the beginning, especially at the end, or getting close to the end with Alex and people complaining about him being on shift, being lazy, and not cleaning. I kind of want to see where that goes, that little tension between people about quality of work and not holding their own end.
Yeah, and that's another unique thing about below deck, is like it is very common for someone to get fired mid-season. Like sometimes there's multiple firings mid-season. So, you'll have your intro for the show where it goes like through all the like the portholes where it's got the like the personalities in that get introduced. That changes over the course of the season as people are like fired and replaced, which is really interesting. So it adds a certain unpredictability to it that you don't get in something like Housewives, where it's it's almost unheard of for a housewife to get fired mid season or have a new addition mid season. When you're starting out the season, and one thing that we saw on like Real Housewives Atlanta that I pointed out was like, I know that Courtney is not a full-blown peach holder, so I can kind of read into that her storyline with Candy is probably not going to be enough to like give us like main character energy. Whereas on Below Deck, you don't know if someone is going to get fired partway through the season. Like, so it adds that element of uncertainty that makes it really exciting to watch.
It's never not going to be funny for me when you say peach holder, Craig. It sounds like a term for somebody who molests people on public transit.
Jesus.
No, I believe that term is Michael Darby. Any final thoughts about Below Deck?
I'll just say it's one of the worst collections of English accents I've ever heard in my life. That's the worst part about it. Got like an Aussie, a Kiwi. I think there's a South African in there, and like a couple people from like the southeastern states. Thank God for Daisy's Irish accent, because that's the most melodious one we've got.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Ray. You want to let everyone know where they can find you?
Yeah, of course. You can find me on Instagram at Ray Benny Sports. You can also find our YouTube channel, Ray and Benny Talk Sports. Weekly podcast, Winnipeg-centric, but we still have hot topics about all the other sports that's going on right now. And yeah, you can find me. I'm an actor in Winnipeg. I'll be on theater stages and your local Hallmark movies.
Awesome.
I don't want to let Ray go without getting his Stanley Cup picks. Let's go. What are you picking for the Stanley Cup? Let's hear it.
Oh, I'm cheering for Pomo. So I'm going to stick with Pomo. I'm one of those guys who supported him. I didn't think he was the issue. I always thought it was the core of the team. That was really disappointing. And so, not that I feel validated, but it feels great to see him move forward, and especially with that sweep in the last round. So go Pomo, and I'll take Florida.
Yeah, it's crazy how like the read on that changed so dramatically over the course of a season, right? Like you look a couple months into the season, the Panthers are floundering, the Jets are flying. It's so easy to claim victory for the people who were like, he was the problem all along, and now look where we are.
Exactly.
It's like it's totally flipped on its head. Yeah, I'm still riding the Cats. I picked Florida to beat all three teams they've won. Don't ask me how the rest of my bracket went, okay? I'm taking no further questions at this time, but the Cats have been very good to me. So, of course, I'm going to pick them to win, too. I want to see the Cats win, and I want to see the Heat win the NBA, too. Let's see two South Florida upsets in the final. That'd be awesome.
That'd be crazy.
Yeah.
And I'm picking Panthers as well. I just feel like with the Crocodiles down in Florida, they really need a win. So it'd be good.
They really need a good story. They really need a good story down there. Yeah. Let's send Matthew Tkachuk out to take care of those now Crocodiles.
Exactly. He's a winner.
Dylan, how about yourself? Where can people find you?
You can find me talking about horror movies on the podcast Mind Over Splatter, writing about movies on Substack.
Awesome. Well, that has been Bravo Outsider for this week. Check out our Vanderpump Reunion special. It's out wherever you're listening to this. We're on Instagram at Bravo Outsider. We're on Twitter at Bravo_Outsider. We're on TikTok at Bravo Outsider. Find us YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you're listening to podcasts. Until next week, keep on wiping.